Hi everybody, it's Rabbi Dov Chastain, and I wanted to learn out loud with you. I'm going to be learning a sefer called Mטעמי השולחן, סיפור יציאת מצרים, from the reasons of the table, which means the reasons that we have the seder, and it goes through the main mitzvah of the night, that being סיפור יציאת מצרים, and it is based on psukim and mefarshim and midrashos and agados, and it is very well laid out. It was written by Rav Moshe Lewis from, I believe, Mattersdorf, but definitely from Yerushalayim. And it's a sefer that I often take a look at before Seder night just to prepare myself. So we'll take a look at it together. And rather than read it line by line, I'm going to summarize paragraph by paragraph, and I'll try to have pictures of the pages up on the screen that I'm doing while I am saying over the Divrei Torah. He starts off in his Hakdama, his introduction, by saying that our time period is the time period called the Ikvasa de Mashiach, the time right before Mashiach comes. And it's a time that Chazal tell us will have tremendous tests in our world. And these will be challenges that continue to purify us and make us more ready for the Mashiach. But he says it'll be a bit of a dark time because these will be challenges to prepare us, and that the atmosphere and the philosophies of people during the time of the Ikvah de Mashiach are going to be full of blasphemy and all sorts of things that are antithetical to Torah. And what complicates things even more is that the pace of life will be much faster than it used to be, and we'll be living in the instant gratification generation and the instant information generation. And these are all things that just lead a person to be a little less together, a little more, as he calls it, mevuhal and mevubal, not able to really focus. Our attention is all over the place. The rat race of life, to run after parnasa, to be able to make money. Our devices, our cell phones, our tablets, our computers making noises and chirping at us from all directions. This has really taken the menuchas hanefesh out, and the yishuv adas, just the clarity and the ability to have a clear mind, have been shaken up by everything that we have shooting at us at all times. Already, while recording this, I've had my phone, at least it's on silent, but buzz in with a couple of interruptions. Notifications that are trying to bring my attention elsewhere. And he asks in the second paragraph, how are we going to be able to stand up to all of these tests that are at our door knocking all the time? How are we going to have the emotional bandwidth for it? How will we have the spiritual bandwidth for it? And he answers only through a powerful love of Hashem and a powerful connection to Hashem at the foundation of who we are. And he points out that in order to get to a love of Hashem and build a relationship with Hashem, you first have to have solid belief in Hashem, solid emunah, solid faith. And based on the strength of a person's emunah will be the depth of his love in Hashem. Therefore, if a person doesn't try to strengthen his emunah in Hashem and to inculcate it deep into who he is and his personality and his beliefs, God forbid, then who knows where such a person could get to. And only if one is willing to take steps to strengthen their emunah is their hope, is their tikva, she'yagia l'tachlis, that they'll get to the point, that being to build a relationship with Hashem. We're in the third paragraph now, where he says that the basis of our emunah is in the story of Yetziat Mitzrayim. And anybody who really delves into the story, like it says in the Haggadah to do, is going to be able to strengthen their emunah and to then draw forth love of Hashem into his heart. And he says that Hashem gave us a great gift to be able to strengthen our emunah, and that is that in his love for us, he gave us one day during the week to have menucha, to have rest, and be able to shut down all of the distractions and be able to focus on our relationship with him, and that day is Shabbos. And the purpose of Shabbos is to be able to stop running the rat race of life and be able to connect to Hashem. And he points out that this is one of the directions that all of the Moadim, all of the Yamim Tovim were created for as well, to be able to connect to Hashem and even further to take pleasure and simcha and happiness in being able to connect to Him over the holiday. We are now in the fourth paragraph, a very fundamental paragraph here, where he brings the Ramban. And he says that the Ramban, Nachmanides, clarifies that all of the Moadim, all of the Yamim Tovim, are really preparations one for another. That the Chag HaPesach, the festival of Passover, is a preparation for Shavuos, and Shavuos for Sukkot, and so on and so on. And that means to say that the connection and the love for Hashem that we build on Chag HaPesach between us and Hashem are not specific only to Chag HaPesach. We're supposed to carry that with us. I don't want to beat a dead horse, but it's the same lashon that I used when I was giving my Nesiva Shalom class, that it's supposed to charge your spiritual batteries to be able to get you to the next Yom Tov. It is hachana, it is preparation to be able to receive the Torah. And just like after we left Mitzrayim, there were 50 days preparing us to be able to get to the Torah, we have that process that we relive and live through every year to be able to prepare ourselves for Shavuos. And that process starts with building our emunah and our connection to Hashem during Pesach itself. And from both Pesach and Shavuos come the preparations that we need to get to Chag HaSukkos and connect to Hashem on an even stronger level. Of course, I started with Pesach because Pesach is the first of the regalim of the three festivals of the year. And this is really hinted to in the names that the Torah gives for the different regalim. Chag HaPesach is called Chag HaAviv, the Chag of the spring season. Haschalas Zrias, the Gidol HaTvua, it's the beginning of the planting and then the growing of the crops, in this case the spiritual crops of our relationship with Hashem. On Shavuos it's called Atzeres, it's called also Chag HaKatzir, the time of the harvest, where the produce is already grown, it's ripe, it's ready to be cut down. And Sukkot is called the Chag HaAsif, the time that we gather it all in, where we bring in the new produce that grew from the Aviv and the Katzir, from Pesach and from Shavuos, and then we bring it Habaita. We bring it to the house, we bring it into who we are, and really celebrate with Hashem in a true Simcha Shel Mitzvah in Zman Simchasenu. And that leads us back to our original statement of somebody who doesn't prepare correctly on Pesach and doesn't go through Pesach halachically correctly with all the halachos and minhagim of Pesach, and who doesn't pay attention in particular to this mitzvah of סיפור Yציאת מצרים, to be able to build their connection with Hashem, they haven't just lost out on Chag HaPesach, but they lost out on all of the preparations and the beginnings for a good Shavuos and for a good Sukkot. How will they be able to be makabel the Torah correctly on Shavuos? And how will they be able to connect to Hashem through Zman Simchasenu, a time of real Hashra Shechina, when Hashem is really together with us in the Sukkah, which we call Tzila Dim Hemnusa, the shade of Hashem? How are we going to be able to get there if we didn't prepare correctly on Pesach? In the last paragraph on this first page, he says that this means to say that סיפור Yציאת מצרים, the mitzvah to tell over the story of the Exodus, is like a seed, that you plant that seed and it grows, and from that comes a tree and fruit, which are needed to be able to have that growth process. And we find that Pesach and the Leil Seder in particular are a time to plant and then open up our lives to a whole new level of emunah. And through that, we'll be ready to rise up to be makabel the Torah, to receive the Torah at the Yom Tov of Shavuos, which comes next. Now I'm at the top of the second page, where he begins by saying, therefore a person has to seize the opportunity. As Rav Gav says, every opportunity is an opportunity for an opportunity. That's from the Rosh Chodesh videos that we watch at my school. But he says we have to seize the opportunity, v'lo lahachmitza, not let it turn into chametz, not let us just sit and watch it fade away, because that we know what chametz is. Chametz is maisa, it is lack of action. It is sitting there and just letting things happen. It's laziness. It is, let's just let life fly by. That's the opposite of Leil Seder. Leil Seder is, we have precious time here together. Let's seize it. Let's use it for all it's worth. Because at the very foundation of the Isser, the prohibition of chametz, is that a person is obligated la'amol v'lachzor v'la'amol. We have to continuously work. We have to continuously strive. We know adam la'amol yulad. We were born to be productive. We have a goal. We have an end game. And we know that im ba mitzvah liyadcha al tachmitzena, that if a mitzvah comes to our hands, we can't just let it slip by. We have to act. And that's what we have to do on Seder night. We can't let that precious time with our family, with our children, slip by without utilizing it for all it's worth. In the beginning of the paragraph, the second paragraph on the page, he says that the mitzvah of סיפור יציאת מצרים, of telling over the Exodus, is special for this night. And we have to tell it over on this night. However, the base mitzvah to remember the Exodus from Egypt is a mitzvah that we do every day during Kriya Shema. And it's also one of the foundations of our faith that we do all the time and can do all the time by just thinking about it. By thinking about Anochi Hashem Elokecha, I am Hashem your God, Asher Hotzeisicha Me'eretz Mitzrayim, who brought you out of the land of Egypt, the first of the 10 commandments. And the explanation of that is that we should know and believe that the world has a God who watches over it and has direct intervention with it, who took the Jewish people out of Mitzrayim. In the third paragraph now, he says, this is the very testimony that we read every day in the first pasuk of Kriya Shema, the pasuk that we have to say with full kavana, with full intention, to have thoughts about the fact that Hashem is the master of everything, that He is, was, and will be, and that He rules over the entire world, b'hashgacha pratis. And without great effort, and without accustoming ourselves to do that, and contemplating topics of our faith and our exodus from Egypt, then it's very hard to get to that level of kavana, to get to that level of concentration. Because a person's heart is tugged in a lot of different ways, and there are many things pulling us away from spirituality, many more than are pulling us towards it, and we have to make a real effort to get towards it. And if a person thinks about and really recognizes what happened in the story of the Exodus, it'll bring that person to be able to recognize and connect to what happened in the story of creation as well. And to be able to do that, a person has to really tap into his own imagination and his own intellectual power. And through those powers and deep contemplation, a person is able to get to a stronger recognition of Hashem and a stronger faith in Him. In the fourth paragraph here, he goes into a pasuk that explains the need to contemplate the story of Yetziat Mitzrayim and teach it to the next generation. The pasuk says, Bo el Paro, come to Paro. This is Hashem speaking to Moshe. Ki ani hichbarati es libo v'yesleiv avadav, because I have hardened his heart and the heart of his servants. L'man shesios usai ela b'kirbo, in order for me to be able to place my signs in his midst. V'leman tesaper ba'aznei bincha, and in order for you to be able to tell over into the ears of your son, uben bincha, and your son's son, es asher salalti b'Mitzrayim, that which I made a mockery out of Egypt in the story of the Exodus. All of the things that Hashem did in the story of the Exodus from Egypt were so that we'd be able to tell it over to our children and our children's children. And that is so that everybody will be able to know, all of our generations, the ways of Hashem and the special things that He did for the Jewish people. And all of those things could really be learned out from carefully looking over the story of the Exodus. And although we can delve into other parts of the Torah and learn about Hashem and His ways, still Hashem wanted to give us this experience of the Exodus in order that everyone should see and really feel and take in the power of Hashem, who He is, and the special relationship He has with the Jewish people. And that's what it means when it says in the pasuk, Atem re'isem, you saw with your own eyes, Eis asher asisi leMitzrayim, that what I did to Mitzrayim. That the entire idea of Yetzias Mitzrayim is for us to be able to take in that experience on the deepest, realist level and recognize Hashem and His relationship with us. Beginning the last paragraph of the page, he brings again the first mitzvah of the Aseres HaDibros, Anochi Hashem Elokecha Asher Hotzeisicha Me'eretz Mitzrayim. I am Hashem your God who took you out of the land of Egypt. That a person needs to contemplate the fact that Hashem took us out of Egypt, and he should know and he should understand that Hashem, our God, took us out and did this because our entire obligation in our world is to be able to accept this as true and to learn from it and to learn from what Hashem did for us. All of the ways of Hashem and the way he interacts with this world and with people, and in particular Jewish people, can be learned out from the story of Yetzias Mitzrayim. And what happened there was not only to save the Jews of that generation, but for us to be able to learn what Hashem does and how Hashem interacts with the world. Therefore, the mitzvah is upon us to delve very deeply into this story, because it is the very foundation and the key to understanding the actions of God. At the top of the next page here, he tells us that from these great miracles, these open miracles that we saw at the time of the Exodus, a person can then come to be able to acknowledge and see the hidden miracles that happen in our everyday lives, which are at the very basis of our entire Torah. Because a person hasn't really understood the Torah of Moshe until they believe that in all the things that happen to us, all of them are, as it were, continuous miracles, because Hashem is consistently and constantly creating the world, creating teva, creating what we know as nature. If he, for an instant, stopped saying, "Let there be table," then the book that is on my table right now would fall straight to the floor, because there would be no table. And this is true both for the general populace and for every individual, and that if we do mitzvos, we will have hatzlacha and we will get schar, and if, God forbid, we do averos, then we'll be cut off and we'll be punished. Everything based on whatever Hashem will decree. And this is at the real basis of our faith. We say, that Hashem is constantly creating the world. The 10 utterances with which Hashem created the world are reverberating through all creation constantly. And if a person doesn't have that faith and doesn't believe in those things, there is something fundamental lacking in his faith and understanding in God. And that recognition of those truths and faith in those truths are a chiyuv on a person. They're obligatory, and we have to believe them with a full heart. And therefore, Hashem gave us these mitzvos of remembering these particular things, in particular Yetzias Mitzrayim, to be able to strengthen that in our hearts. Now in the second paragraph on this page, he says that the coming of the Mashiach is going to be similar to the story of the Exodus from Egypt. Just like in the story of Yetzias Mitzrayim, when they finally decided to let us out, that was pitom, that was right away, and we weren't able to prepare. We had to rush out with our matzah. And that was true also in the Geula of Bayesheni, when we left the Babylonian exile and came back to the land of Israel. That Koresh, the king of Persia and Media, came to tell Klal Yisrael that we're allowed to build the Beis HaMikdash again, and said, Mi bachem yalel Yerushalayim, who amongst you is going to go up to Jerusalem? That's also the way it's going to happen with our future Geula, with our future redemption. Like it says in the Pasuk in Malachi, Pitom Yavo El Heichalo. Suddenly he'll come to his sanctuary. There's going to be a sudden turn of events that's going to bring about the Mashiach. Recognition of this is needed to strengthen our emunah in the Geula, in the final redemption. We know that, different doubts arise in all of our hearts about the coming of the Mashiach. We believe it deep in our souls, but sometimes we get worried. And we have to realize that there's going to be a certain sudden nature to it, and we shouldn't lose hope if we don't see a lot of things building towards it, because Hashem could bring it immediately. Yeshuas Hashem keheref ayin. Hashem's salvation could be in the blink of an eye. And when you look at the way that Hashem interacted with us in the redemption from Mitzrayim, where once they finally decided, based on what Hashem had caused, to let us go, it was quite immediate and quick. And when we think about that, we can think about how that will happen in the future redemption as well, and that will also be somewhat sudden. And we realize that just like Hashem redeemed us from the gullus of Mitzrayim and promised to redeem us from the first gullus, and He did, and there are prophecies of how He will redeem us from this gullus, we can know that they will be fulfilled just like the ones were fulfilled that brought us back after the first gullus. And you can use it the opposite way as well, that if a person has very strong belief in the coming of the Mashiach, they can also be assured that everything that happened in Yetziat Mitzrayim is also true, just like they believe in the coming of the Mashiach speedily in our days. In the last paragraph on this page, he says that these topics we're discussing are also clarified by the Smak in his explanation of the mitzvah of Anochi Hashem Elokecha Asher Tzeisecha Me'eretz Mitzrayim, the first of the 10 Commandments, to believe that I am Hashem your God who took you out of the land of Egypt, which is to know that the one who created the heavens and the earth, He alone rules over everything above, everything below, and in all 4 directions. And that's something that we're obligated to do, to the point where we know that when a person passes away, one of the questions that they're going to ask them, which is actually ironic that I'm talking about that now because it was in today's Daf Yomi, is Tzipisa liYehoshua. Did you pine for the salvation? Were you waiting for Mashiach? Did you make that a part of who you were? And we know, although that's one of the 13 principles of faith of the Rambam, that if you look through the Torah, it doesn't seem like there's a direct mitzvah for that, and this is what the Smak is saying, that mitzvah is based on the idea of Anochi Hashem Elokecha Asher Tzeisecha Me'eretz Mitzrayim. I am Hashem your God who took you out of that gullus, and I'm going to take you out of another gullus. Just like we believe that He took us out of Egypt, we believe He's going to take us out of this situation as well. And it comes out from this that emunah in the coming redemption is part and parcel. It's connected to the mitzvah, and really part of the mitzvah of Anochi Hashem Elokecha, which is to believe in Yetziat Mitzrayim. And when you strengthen your belief in that, you will strengthen your belief in the coming of Mashiach as well. Going to the top of the next page in his final part of the Hakdama, of the introduction to his book, he says that emunah is the life of a person. It is the lifeblood of a person. It is what helps the person get up in the morning and go be a productive person. And the purpose of emunah is to bring a person to fear of Hashem, which is where the Torah wants us to go. The Torah wants us to have that relationship with Hashem where we love and fear Him. And what is emunah? He calls it emunah hatamima, full, pure faith, lo hir or pikpuk klal, without any doubts. And therefore, if a person is able to delve into the story of Yetziat Mitzrayim, they can bring themselves there. But for however long that a person doesn't go over these ideas in their, what he calls mamaloshin, in their native tongue, to be able to really speak these things out, it won't go in deep enough. We need to utilize the time that we have, to make it really go in deep. He explains that that's what's meant by the pasuk v'hashevosa el lavavecha. You should return it to your heart. It means you have to really dig it in there deep. You need to dig it in there deep if you're going to be one of the ma'amin, and if you're going to be one of the real believers in Hashem and have a real relationship with Him. And we know that the generation of the Midbar, of the wilderness, they saw with their very own eyes what Hashem was doing, and they were able to reach an incredible level of emunah. But we, unfortunately, aren't living in times of open miracles like that. We haven't seen it with our very own eyes, and we have to be able to speak about it and to paint with our own imagination what it must have been like, and be able to really think about everything that we've been taught and that we've learned from our forefathers and from our Rebbeim about Yetzias Mitzrayim, and really contemplate it and make it a part of ourselves and say it over at the seder to those we are trying to help connect to Hashem. And he says that we are chayavim, we are obligated to delve into this and go over it again. And he finishes with a bracha down here in the end of the Hakdama, Vayihi Ratzon, may it be Hashem's will that we're zeicha, we're merit to live with a real, palpable emunah and be able to get to the point where we can say with a full faith, Ani mamin be'emunah shalema, I believe with full faith, She'abari Yisbarach Shemo, that Hashem, hu borei umanig, he created and leads l'chol habruyim, all of creation, v'hu levado asa, and he is the one who did these things, who made these things, oseh, and does and makes these things, v'yaseh, and will do and will make all these things, will continue to create the world, l'chol hamasim, for everything that's in creation. And from this, hopefully we can reach the next level of Ani Mamin Be'emunah Shalema. I believe with full faith, B'vias HaMashiach, with the coming of the Mashiach. And hopefully I'll be able to see very soon, V'haya Hashem l'melech al kol ha'aretz, that Hashem will be the king over all of the world. Bayomahu, and on that day, Yi Hashem echad, Hashem will be one, Ushmo echad, and his name will be one throughout the world. May it speedily come. Hopefully this will help you be able to get in the right mood to be able to say over the story of Yetzias Mitzrayim properly by your own Seder table. Have a Chag Kasher V'Sameach.